Hi, good afternoon. Nice to see you all here. My name is Sean Banks. I'm a partner here at TTV Capital, and I had the privilege of serving as the chairman for TAG's Fintech Society for about 13 years. And great to see the work that Mike Morris and his team has pulled off. The Fintech Hall of Fame started back in 2010 to recognize entrepreneurial pioneers and give further credibility to these visionaries who have contributed so much to building Georgia's global reputation as a leader in the fintech industry. By showcasing the state's history of innovation in fintech and payments, we aim to educate others on these inductees' contributions both to the industry and to the world economy. So with that, our winner today are the founding team of Kabbage. It is my pleasure to introduce you to this year's Hall of Fame co-inductees, Catherine Petralia, co-founder and president, and Rob Frowine, co-founder and CEO of Kabbage. Kabbage has served nearly 500,000 U.S. small businesses, funding over $16 billion in loans. During the pandemic alone, Kabbage served 270,000 small businesses, extending $7 billion in capital, and is estimated to have saved nearly 1 million small business jobs. Kabbage expanded their platform in 2019 and 2020 to meet a full suite of cash flow needs for small businesses, including banking services, credit cards. American Express acquired the firm late in 2020 and continues to offer its cash flow technology solutions to millions of U.S. small businesses. From its bootstrap beginnings, it took nearly a year for Kabbage to secure their first $500,000 of capital, but they went on to raise more than $400 million in primary equity and billions in debt financing. The company has also received dozens of awards, including spots on the CNBC Disruptor 50, the Forbes FinTech 50, and as well as being named a best place to work by Fortune Inc., the Atlanta Business Chronicle, and Glassdoor. Catherine and Rob are named as inventors on dozens of U.S. patents related to Kabbage's technology. And please give a warm welcome to Catherine, Rob, and Larry. Thank you.
Great. Move over here a little bit. Congratulations.
Right. Thank you so much.
An honor well earned. So, but what a ride.
Here, you got to get closer here, Catherine.
I feel like I'm pretty
You're so far away.
I should have known there's going to be a tall stool.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, that was really loud.
It was. So talk to us about the vision, the original vision for Kabbage. How did that evolution? You had an idea, you had a spark, and then it evolved.
Yeah, so the idea really came in 2007. I was looking at the APIs that eBay provided, and I was also at the same time spending a lot of time with a company that was leveraging those APIs for something totally different. And I thought, why not take advantage of that? The types of businesses that sell on places like eBay need capital. And if eBay were to buy a credit company, who would they fund? And it was really those businesses that were selling on eBay and on Amazon and on these other sites. So really the original vision was to provide working capital to online businesses.
Excellent. Your perspective, Catherine?
Everyone always wants it to be a story that, we started a small business and we couldn't get access to capital, and so we came up with Kabbage. But what I love about the story is the technology is really in the center of it, and I think it's one of the things that really enabled our growth over the years and sustained us through all kinds of interesting scenarios like a pandemic.
Yeah. And we launched during in the shadow of the GFC. So some might say it's our fault because we launched during the GFC and we just started another company here
so you're talking
during
about
this downturn.
You're about 2009.
2008, 2009 is when we started. Had the idea in 2007, really didn't do anything with it, and then it was one of those ideas that kept sort of nipping at my heels. So I thought of, who do I know that understands financial technology really better than anybody else I knew, and Catherine came to mind. We had done some work about 4 or 5 years earlier when she was with CompuCredit at the time. And I remember specifically having a lunch with her because she was working at a company called Revolution Money. And I didn't know anything about fintech at the time, and I was at that lunch, and she was spouting off all this information about fintech, and I was just nodding my head, and I literally didn't understand anything she said during the entire conversation. And so when I thought like I need to call somebody, it was Catherine who came to mind because she knew a heck of a lot more than I did at that time.
That's great. So 2009, midst of this great recession, which I'm still hoping is the worst of my lifetime, and but you came up with this idea to help small business. Not the best timing if you think about it. So talk about how that, Catherine, how did that sort of evolve and really targeted that audience, and did they obviously came.
I think so many great businesses are counter-cyclical. It's a great time to try something out and start something new. But I think what was really interesting is that everybody presumed that small businesses were really suffering because of the recession. But the smallest businesses have always suffered. I'm going to say the thing, sorry.
Oh, no.
So there are 32 million small businesses in the United States, and 26 million of them have no employees. Of the remaining 6 million, 90% have fewer than 20 employees, and 80% have fewer than 10. They've always been underserved for like thousands of years. So it's really hard for them to get the capital they need, and lack of access to capital is one of the biggest reasons that companies go out of business. So, we didn't really know all of these things when we started the company. It just turned out to be a great thing that we were able to help, individuals and businesses that are a really important part of our economy.
And one thing I would add to that is when we first started going out and for getting capital. By the way, the company was started by me and Catherine, but also Mark Gorlin. Mm-hmm. We co-founded it together and really built sort of the initial version of the company together. And we would go out to venture capitalists and we would be pitching them. And the one thing they consistently asked us at the beginning, like, do small businesses really need capital? Is this even a big market? Was the principal question that was asked to us, to the point where we hadn't put a slide in our deck because we assumed that everybody realized that small businesses were a big group of needy, buyers of services, but literally none of the VCs out there actually even understood that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Except for the one that's in the audience.
Yeah,
That guy.
Steve totally did.
Yeah.
Where's Steve? The ones that invested in us totally did.
Of course. But go back and talk about the dynamic. So y'all had this lunch, you're looking for somebody, you didn't have the depth in fintech, Catherine did. How did this partnership work?
Yeah, so I made 2 phone calls when I decided that it was something worth going for. One was to Catherine because she had a lot of fintech experience and frankly financial services experience. And the other was to Mark Gorlin, who had tremendous experience raising money
Mark
from
Gorlin,
investors.
Started
Roadie, sold Roadie. So
UPS.
He had a really good year.
Yeah.
He had a really good year, which he deserves. From the beginning, I said we had a great dynamic, and I'd say one thing that we're really good at is, and we were asked this question, like, how does it work with 3 co-founders? And the one thing we really realized was bad decisions we figure out right away, and we always had somebody who understood a particular area really well to make the right decision. So we got rid of bad decisions very quickly, or made sure we didn't make them, and we were able to find somebody among the 3 of us who really could push forward the great ideas.
What do you think, Catherine? What made the partnership work so well?
I think it was a dividing and conquering. I think we each had confidence in the other's ability to handle the area that we'd sort of allocated. And it meant that we could move quickly, down a lot of different paths. Whenever I talk to companies where there's one founder, no other co-founders, I always think to myself, gosh, that must be really hard to have to make every decision yourself and not have someone, off of whom you can bounce other ideas and see if you're thinking the right way about something. So I think it was really a great experience to be able to discuss big decisions together and to move fast on things we could do on our own.
And we also, one other dynamic is, I always, saw the sky falling. And Catherine would always say, nothing is as bad as you think it is, Rob. And I would always turn and say, yeah, but it's a lot worse than you think it is. Yeah. And you sort of need that dynamic, right? So, when when either Mark or Catherine, they were down, hopefully I would be able to pick them up and vice versa.
That's great. So a lot of trust, a lot of confidence, a lot of respect went into it.
Yep, absolutely.
And then a base of knowledge and your appropriate skill sets. That's wonderful. So, come out of a recession, and then you were really able to scale. So talk about how you use that platform to scale the business, and then we'll run up to the next challenge.
Sure, we'll probably talk about the eBay moment. You know, it was May of 2011, and we had convinced eBay to put a blurb about Cabbage in an outgoing newsletter that they sent to their online sellers.
Oh.
And we at that time had maybe 50 customers, something along those lines. And I remember I was sitting on my couch at home, and it was like 8:37 at night, so I like literally remember this. And this newsletter had just gone out, and then I saw one account come in, then 2 minutes later, a couple more come in. Before we knew it, a whole bunch of accounts were coming in. So quickly called around to the whole team. We had maybe 15, 17 people at that time. We were like, get to the office. We got to like man the phones here, thinking we were going to get thousands of accounts that night. Now, we ended up getting like 250 accounts that night, which was probably 5 times the number that we had at that point. But that was like the first moment where you realized, you know, something was put out there about us and people really wanted it. Mm-hmm. And that's when you realize that, you know, you actually have product market fit with whatever you're, you know, with, for us, for Cabbage, but for other people, you know, products that they might be launching.
For years, I think for years, we actually got emails every single time a customer signed up. That is not scalable. But because Rob was doing the math in his head every day and every hour really about where we were and how much money we'd put out, and the team built an app for him so that he could see that in real time all the time and didn't have to do so much math and check so many emails. So even though it was tech enabled at the very beginning, you know, you learn the things that are taking your time and the things you need to run the business. But I think, again, I mentioned this earlier, at the heart of it, at the heart of getting to where we ultimately did, it was automation and technology.
And that laid the foundation for all the scale. So, a great decade, then we run up on a pandemic. So how was Cabbage positioned during a pandemic, and what were the needs? Did you have to change your products and services and approach during the pandemic for the small businesses?
It might come as a surprise to you, but the pandemic was hard for small businesses early on.
Shocking.
It wasn't the best place to be at the beginning of a pandemic.
Not counterintuitive.
No, it was terrifying. I mean, and nobody had experienced this before. I mean, not for 100 years, so things were obviously very different. So we had to make a lot of decisions about our teams and about our customers and our products, but we were really fortunate that we were well positioned and were asked by the Small Business Administration to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program. Mm-hmm. And we were able to automate the application flow and serve millions of small businesses as a result through that process. Yeah,
so well, it wasn't millions of small businesses.
Oh, dang it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, it felt like millions. It was actually, we served 270,000 small businesses to the tune of $7 billion in 4 months. To put that in perspective, we had served 240,000 businesses prior to that time and put out $9.3 billion. So we literally, more customers and almost as much money in 4 months as we had done in 10 years. And I think it was really a testament to our leadership team and all the people that worked in the company, because literally the team would meet 3 times a day for, I mean, it's what seemed like a couple of months, you know, would meet at 10 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 10 o'clock at night every day, and everybody had their roles to execute on. But it was you know, for everybody, it was, you know, it was something I never want to live through again.
Right.
But super proud of what we accomplished during that time. We saved a lot of jobs and really saved the company in the process. Yeah.
Because in a way, you were experiencing the same thing as your clients were.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, well, the next run-up was really about, you know, end of 2020 and your relationship with American Express. So as you evaluated your next move and then you start talking to American Express, how did you know that was the right fit?
So we actually started talking with American Express prior to the start of the not the start of the pandemic, because obviously it was in Asia before it was in the US, but before it hit home in the US. And it was just a kind of a natural conversation. They had always been a logical partner for us because they're a very tech-forward large bank. And we had very complementary customer bases and very complementary, you know, approaches, you know, internally and cultures. And so so that was just something where we started engaging them in conversation. They started engaging us, and we actually went through multiple rounds of conversations during the pandemic. So when we were doing all the things that we just described, for the Paycheck Protection Program, those conversations were literally happening at the same time. And we announced the deal in the first half of August during 2020.
So the same team that was doing all the work to get through PPP to serve the hundreds of thousands of small businesses that we
Let's
serve.
make it millions, revisionist history.
I was an English major. I get confused with the commas. So anyway, those same folks, those same leaders at Cabbage were also going through this transaction, and all the diligence that you can imagine was part of that. I mean, it was just remarkable what the efforts the team made to get through that entire period.
Well, Catherine, talk about that. So if you think about the whole team, everyone who built the company, and then you're thinking about this acquisition from Amex, how difficult was that decision?
And is it still difficult?
Well, I don't know what it says that Rob and I are no longer employed by American Express, but I think that was to be expected, really. I think the team was excited about it. I think it was really validation. American Express is a great company and a great brand, very well known globally. A leader in serving small businesses. I think the team was really proud of the fact that we had together built something that American Express thought was really valuable, and that they wanted to sort of sit at the center of their ability to serve small businesses, which they've really done since then. I sat in this meeting a couple weeks ago, right before I left American Express, and we were going through all of the work we're doing through the end of the year. They are doing through the end of the year to meet all the goals and milestones. And it's really remarkable how much work has even happened with that same team in the last 6 to 8 months. I mean, they just continue to grow, I think, and continue to demonstrate that they work really well together and they can deliver.
And it's still Cabbage, powered by American Express. So.
For now.
For now. All right. Well, so you no longer work for American Express. You've moved on.
Yep.
Y'all are partnering up again. Keep Technologies. Tell us about Keep Technologies.
Yeah, so Keep really was born out of probably the thing that was, we talked about going through the GFC, our experience through the pandemic. It was very difficult raising money, very difficult learning how to build a credit business, especially with, small businesses as our customers. But probably by far and away the most difficult thing we had over the years was really hiring and retaining people. And so I was really, after I'd left American Express, I was trying to think of ideas as I do many times, and I was thinking about recruiting and retention, but then sort of the fintech side of it sort of occurred to me, and so what Keep Financial does is help employers really significantly increase their percentage on recruiting people and significantly diminish attrition by enabling companies to offer something called vesting cash plans, which is a new compensation benefit that basically allows employers to provide capital to their employees at the front end of some term, and that money is then earned over time. It's like a retention bonus that's paid up front, but it's earned over time by employees. And the reason, two things. The reason why that's so impactful is it allows employees to get access to capital earlier in their careers than they thought they might otherwise be able to do. And it allows employers to align themselves better with the employees and have these employees be retained for a longer period of time, for a secured period of time. And the reason why it's so important for an intermediary like Keep to be involved is because it really has to be presented as a loan, a 0% interest loan to the employee to be able to get them the access to the capital up front, but also have that obligation that they stick around for a period over time. So that's what Keep Financial does.
So it's a kind of a vesting program. There's a vesting
It's a vesting
part
program, but you get the cash up front, so you can pay down student debt, you can contribute to the 401k, you can buy a house or get married or whatever it may be that your goal is at that particular time.
That's great. Are you excited, Catherine? Keep?
It's all about timing. I think the timing happens to be really great right now in light of the war on talent, as you might have heard it, or the Great Recession. All of those terms. There are things that are happening right now, and they're real. And there hasn't really been innovation in compensation in a long time, probably not since stock options were introduced. And I think this is something that employees will feel like they can control a lot more, that's more valuable to them, and long term will make them want to stay with their employers longer.
That's great. Listen, we're very proud of you here in Georgia. Y'all have built a great company here. Looks like you're off to build another one. We know that Georgia is the epicenter, global epicenter for fintech. What makes fintech so inviting to build a fintech company?
Everyone cares about money. It's
Yeah.
sort of the center of all of our lives. There's this idea that fintech is new. I mean, I've been working in fintech since the 90s, but I mean, fintech, ever since the first dollar was digitized, all banks are all fintechs, the ATM, that was fintech, the first credit cards, that was
That's right.
fintech. Fintech's been around for a long time.
And Atlanta's played a big role in fintech over the years, is
Right.
one of the reasons for this conference even existing. It's interesting, Catherine and I, we were speaking with a reporter from a well-known publication a couple of weeks ago about Keep Financial, and she contacted us again last week, and she goes, I was doing some research, and I didn't realize what a role Atlanta and Georgia has played in fintech over the years. So Catherine and I are scheduled to have a follow-up conversation with her next week, literally about that topic.
Well, we're releasing our ecosystem report, so there's
Good
lots
time.
of good data in there.
All right,
you
let's
get
make
a
sure
copy.
we coordinate on that
That's
one.
right. So digital as well. All right. You're also very passionate about entrepreneurship. You're passionate about startups. What advice would you give to our startup community here for being successful?
I always say the same thing, which is reach out to people who you think know something that could help you do what you're doing. We didn't, when I was, in my 20s and starting companies, I didn't have access to LinkedIn or things that could have helped connect me with people, that could have helped me answer questions and make decisions. I think I'm really impressed by all the young people, I sound like I'm, 92, but who reach out to me all the time and they say, hey, I just want to ask you a question. I just want to get your advice about something. And I think most entrepreneurs are really willing and able to help and willing to answer a question.
So I wanted to hear your answer, but it has certainly evolved in time. I mean, our total startup and entrepreneurism ecosystem has evolved over the last decade, right?
It's actually remarkable. I mean, when we first started Cabbage, it was, there was definitely, ISS, there was definitely companies that had grown up here and done great here, but it's nothing like it is today. I mean, it's really remarkable, and I think it's thanks to a bunch of different people here in the community that have really worked hard to foster that kind of environment for sure.
And I think part of it is also people who've been successful are coming back and reinvesting in our community as well. In many
without a
different
doubt.
ways.
Yep.
I mean, everything from what David Cummins does with ATV, building a building and a place, all the way to starting other venture funds and putting their capital back in.
That's right.
All right. It's a crystal ball question. FinTech. You've been in FinTech for a long time, Catherine. What's the future of FinTech?
My answer is a lot more of the same thing that you've already seen over the last 50 years or longer. I think what you're going to see, the biggest thing that you're going to see is fintechs having direct relationships with their customers, whether it's small businesses or consumers, and potentially taking away relationships from large institutions that aren't able to move as quickly and deliver the experience that these customers want. Banks are always going to be there. We always need people who understand the regulations and how to move money and are appropriately licensed and regulated. But I think brands themselves are learning how to work with banks and take over that customer relationship. I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
And I agree. I think the financial relationship is obviously one of the most crucial relationships with a customer. And so if you can have that kind of daily relationship, it puts you in great position to offer other products and services, first tangential to what you were doing, and then eventually you can expand beyond that without a doubt. But I also like, and I think Keep is is almost a very different example, right? Which is, you look at a global problem like recruiting and retention and just, and everybody goes, well, there's lots of layoffs happening right now, but one thing that I've always seen is there's no such thing as a recession for great talent. I mean, great talent will always persist. And the fact of the matter is how can FinTech help solve that problem? And I think that's what Keep contributes to. So as we think about lots of other issues that are out there, there is an opportunity for FinTech to play a role in lots of fields you might not initially realize.
Everybody likes to get paid on time, every time.
Yeah.
I was at a conference in Hong Kong a few years ago, and the theme throughout that I heard was, physically, people don't need banks, people need services. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Catherine and Rob. Catherine and Rob, thank you so much. Congratulations once again on our 2022 inductees into the Georgia FinTech Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.